So today I wanted to cover Prakriti and also the components of Prakriti, that is the Gunas. And I'd like to reiterate many of the things I've said earlier because it's so important. Prakriti is important because everything that you see, everything that you hear, everything that you smell, everything that you taste, everything that you touch is Prakriti. In fact, there is nothing in this world which is perceptible that is anything other than Prakriti. When we speak of anything, we directly or indirectly imply that we are speaking about Prakriti. We function in the world through our Prakriti. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the eightfold nature of our Prakriti components. Bhumi apo nalo vayur kham mano buddhirev cha ahankara ityam me bhinna prakriti ashtada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, all of these, Krishna says, are my inferior separated energies. It says bhinna prakriti. And how did this bhinna prakriti come to be? How did this bhinna prakriti come to pass? If you go to the 14th chapter, 3rd verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna clearly states, Mamma yonir mahad brahma tasmin garbham dadhami aham sambhavah sarvabhutanam tato bhavati bharata. Grossly mistranslated in almost all Bhagavad Gitas modern day, you will never understand the meaning if you open any Bhagavad Gita which you have. So listen carefully. Mahad Brahma does not stand for Brahman. Please make that very clear in your understanding. Mahad Brahma stands for Mahat. Here the qualifier, that is Brahma, only means that it is unlimited. And Mahat is nothing other than Prakriti. So Mahat is Prakriti in its inordinate, completely unformed aspect. It is the repository of all forms of Prakriti that is contained within. It is called Mahat. And Krishna explains that he impregnates this Mahat. He impregnates this Mahat. See, many people foolishly have translated Mahat Brahma as Brahman. And having mistranslated Mahat Brahma as Brahman, such ignorant people are implying that God impregnates Brahman. You have to understand that the Bhagavad Gita, its foundational aspect of knowledge, what it refers to constantly as knowledge, it refers to Sankhya philosophy. And even though it speaks of Sankhya philosophy, ultimately it transcends the Sankhya philosophy and keeps it below Vedanta philosophy. So when he says here, Mama Yonir Mahat Brahma, Tasmin Garbham Dadami Aham, Sambhavah Sarva Bhutanam Tato Bhavati Bharata. So clearly it is being stated here that the Lord impregnates Prakriti. So the Lord is inconceivable and eternal. And Prakriti, because it is his Bhinna Prakriti, it is his own energy, his inferior energy. Daiviyasa gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Prakriti also is his divine energy. So the Lord impregnates this inferior energy of his with his superior energy. So Krishna not only says that your Prakriti is composed of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. He also says, Apariyas itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabhaho yayedam daryate jagat. He says, you are part of my superior energy. Therefore, the Lord impregnates his inferior energy, which is Prakriti in the form of Mahat, with his superior energy. And this superior energy, which are the individual souls, now have become embodied with this Prakriti. So you and I, we are all individual souls. Please note, this is Sankhya philosophy. So each of us are individual souls. And being individual souls, we are all entrapped. We are all encased. We are all contained within a shell of Prakriti. And this Prakriti, which contains the soul or the individual soul, is known as the Jiva. So this individual soul encased in Prakriti sees around itself through its senses: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego. And it thinks because it looks in the world and it sees everything made of Prakriti. This individual soul is fooled into believing that he or she is Prakriti. And believing that it is Prakriti, this individual soul begins to think of itself as I, that I being Prakriti. And this is the root cause of all the problems. When you stop identifying with this Prakriti, which is your outer casing, when you begin to see Prakriti as separate from you, then you will become truly liberated in this life itself, which is called Jivan Mukti. And when you leave this body, having attained moksha, you will drop your mind, intelligence, and ego also and return to Godhead, the source, to the divine. Those who cling on, who leave the physical body of earth, water, fire, air, and ether, they leave that behind, wanting a different combination, in different proportions, in a different manner. They take with them their mind, intelligence, and ego to the next gross body, to the next womb. And because they take their mind, intelligence, and ego with them, they take rebirth. Whereas those who understand that they are not Prakriti, that they are not the I they think they are, they understand that they are nobody because they are not this Prakriti. And they do nothing because in fact Prakriti does everything. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that in fact Krishna says that Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartam iti manyate. So Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that indeed the foolish living entity imagines himself to be the doer of activities which are in fact performed by Prakriti. So the soul, that is you, do nothing. Prakriti does everything. And because Prakriti does everything, when you identify with it, you suffer or you enjoy. Karya karanam kartritve hetur prakriti uchyate. Purusha sukha dukhanam bhoktritva hetur uchyate. Prakriti performs all the actions. But the foolish living entity, the foolish soul, imagining himself to be the doers of the activity, enjoys and he suffers. So the whole process of spiritual realization hinges on your realizing that you are not Prakriti. And when you realize that you are not Prakriti, then will your spiritual journey begin. That is, spiritual life begins at moksha. Until then, you are merely a contender for spiritual life. And not everyone is interested in spiritual life. In fact, Krishna says, Manushyanam sasreshu kashchid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam vedi tattvataha. Out of many thousands of people, hardly one will seek perfection. And of those who seek perfection, hardly one will know me in truth. So how does one realize that one is not Prakriti? How does one realize that one is indeed the individual soul? For this, let us get a more clear understanding of what Prakriti really is. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains very clearly that Prakriti, what does it consist of? What does your Prakriti consist of? Sattvam rajas tamasiti guna prakriti sambhavaha nibadnanti mahavao dehe dehinam avyayam. Krishna explains, Prakriti, it consists of three gunas. And these three gunas of Prakriti are Sattva guna, Rajoguna, and Tamaguna. And when this individual soul is in contact with these three with Prakriti, he is naturally conditioned by these three gunas. So you are made of Prakriti, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. But you are not Prakriti. You are the individual soul who is part of God's superior energy and who is sustaining and maintaining creation. These parts of your body, mind, and intelligence and ego are indeed made up of three gunas. The three gunas I explained are Sattva Gun, which is also known as the mode of goodness, Rajagun, which is also known as the mode of passion, and Tamagun, which is known as the mode of ignorance. With goodness, you are in harmony. You are at peace. You are in contentment. You are in that mode, or you are in that guna, which is most favorable for enlightenment. Those who are in Sattva Guna are most likely to understand and make an effort to disidentify with Prakriti and become identified with the individual soul. Those who are in the mode of Rajoguna are full of unlimited desirings and longings and cravings. And because of this, one is bound to perform activity seeking the fruit. Tamaguna causes delusion. In this, your discriminative power is often shut off. It often leads to madness, heedlessness, indolence, laziness, and sleep, which binds the soul. So therefore, you should understand that we contain all the three gunas. The Prakriti that we have is composed of all the three gunas. Do not think that someone is totally sattvic or someone is totally rajasic or someone is totally tamasic. It's never like that. Krishna says in text number 10 of the 14th chapter, Rajas tamas chabhi bhuyah sattvam bhavati bharata rajah sattvam tamaschaiva tamas sattvam rajastatha. Sometimes Rajagun, the mode of passion, becomes prominent, defeating Sattvagun, the mode of goodness. Sometimes the mode of goodness defeats the mode of passion, that is, Sattvagun defeats Rajagun. And at other times, Tamagun defeats goodness and passion, or Tamagun defeats Sattvagun and Rajagun. In this way, there is constant competition for supremacy. Try to understand that your gunas vary according to many things. The simplest thing which changes your gunas is the time of the day. In the early hours of the morning, especially before sunrise, which is known as Brahma Muhurt, if you sleep at sunset, you will automatically wake up at this time. If you get to sleep at sunset exactly, you will exactly get up at Brahma Muhurt. And at that time, your mind will be fresh, it will be clean, it will be in Sattva Gun. This is the time to meditate, this is the time to chant, this is the time to remember God. This is the time to remember God and forget self. This is the way one can set one's spiritual tone for the day, remembering God and forgetting self. On the other hand, in terms of passion, when you meet other people, when you engage in the marketplace, when you go to the office, when you go to your place of work or your profession, you are automatically taken up by the activities going on around you, the mood around you, the desires around you, and you get engaged in Rajoguna. And you perform activity, your desires begin to manifest. And you are working for some fruit or the other. Tamagun occurs towards the night time. When the sun sets, Tamagun begins to set in. Tamagun is the signal that you need to sleep, that you need to rest. The body gives you signs like yawning, stretching, and it gives you an indication that you need to sleep. This is how Rajagun, Tamagun, and Sattvagun act. And Krishna explains that sometimes Sattvagun is predominant, sometimes Rajagun is predominant, sometimes Tamagun is predominant. The best way you can allow for the natural regulation of your gunas is by sleeping at sunset, arising at Brahma Muhurt, meditating, chanting, remembering God, forgetting self, and setting the spiritual tone for the rest of the day. Sattvagun allows you all your gates of your body to be illumined by knowledge. Krishna says in the 11th chapter of the 11th text of the 14th chapter, Sarva dvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyad vivridham sattvam ityuta. Sattvagun can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illumined by knowledge. We see things in the right perspective. We can hear, see, smell, taste, touch. With that kind of purity of mind without self, that we are able to move onto the platform of the spirit. But unfortunately, do not think Sattva Guna is the ideal guna. It is the ideal guna of the three gunas. But that's not the goal, that's not the aim. You have to become free of Sattva Guna. You have to become Guna Tita. Because even when you are in Sattva Guna, you are wearing handcuffs. If Rajagun is rusty iron handcuffs, If Tamagun is rusty iron handcuffs, Rajagun is stainless steel handcuffs, Sattvagun, it consists of golden handcuffs. And what are the golden handcuffs? The golden handcuffs are explained in chapter 14, verse 6. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam anamayam sukha sangena badnati jnana sangena chanaga. So when one is in Sattvagun, he is bound by the desire to be knowledgeable, to acquire knowledge. And he is driven by the desire to be happy. So he wants to be happy. He wants to be knowledgeable. So whatever he does is to seek knowledge and to look for happiness. Both of these are handcuffs. This is called the happiness trap. This is called the knowledge trap. When you think that everything, the be all and end all of life lies in knowledge and it lies in happiness. But in truth, what Krishna is teaching us in the Bhagavad Gita is that we need to transcend happiness. We need to be the same in happiness and in distress. That we need to transcend knowledge. And we have the ultimate spiritual knowledge that all things are but part of God, they're in Him and there is. Yaj jnatva punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava sarva bhutani asheshani drakshasya atmano athvamai. When you have learnt the truth, you will know that all beings, they lie within me, they're part of me, they're in me and they're mine. You will see the divine in all things. That is transcending material knowledge. Whereas those who are in Sattvagun, they keep on wanting more lectures, more books, more classes, more ways, spiritual retreats, more this, more that. They're seeking to acquire more and more and more and more. And actually all they need to do is to remember God and forget self. And if you want to expand that remember God and forget self, perform all your God-given duties in a spirit of sacrifice to that all-pervading Lord. And the other is always chant God's name when your mind is not otherwise engaged. In that order. And if you do that, without doubt, you will be engaged in the Supreme. Please understand that all the gunas are perfect. Tamagun is also perfect because it tells you when to sleep. But instead, if you go out in the night for entertainment, you will mix with other people who are also in Tamagun. You will fall a trap to alcohol, addiction, illicit sexual activity, and so many other things, which are all influenced. And being in Tamagun, you will be attracted to all these things. You will be attracted to these things and these things will influence you. So you will become more and more tamasic. Don't become a Raat ka Raja. Have you heard people saying, oh, main to Raat ka Raja? This means this person is close to becoming Rakshas. He is on the path of becoming Rakshas. The mode of goodness is wonderful. But the mode of goodness gives you the happiness trap and the knowledge trap. There is also the ego trap that I am so spiritual, I am so religious, I am such a wonderful person. The real thing is that real path is that if you are in the sattvic mode, you start moving towards remembering God and forgetting self. Similarly, your Rajagun makes you work and become active, which is wonderful. But the minute you think that you want to acquire this and attain that and succeed here and get this and get that, then that causes all the problems. Because you are bound to fruitive activities. You seek the fruit. Therefore, do not seek the fruit. Do your duty in a spirit of sacrifice and devotion to the all-pervading Lord, and you shall attain perfection. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana abhyarchaya siddhim vindati manavaha. If you continue constantly trying to remain in Sattvagun, you will get knowledge. If you constantly remain in Rajagun, you will get sorrow. If you constantly remain in Tamagun, you will get foolishness, madness, illusion, and destruction. Those who are constantly in Sattvagun go up towards Swarga. Those who are in Rajagun move around on the earthly planets. And those who are in Tamagun, they go into the hellish planets. Everything that you see, hear, taste, touch is in Prakriti. And everything that you see influences your gunas. When you see that the Lord is transcendent to these gunas, transcendent to Prakriti, then you can transcend all suffering. So when you can transcend all the three gunas, when you become gunatita, you can become free from birth and death and old age and disease and enjoy nectar even in this life. Guna neta natriya trin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukher vimukto amritam ashnute. When the embodied soul is able to transcend these three gunas, he can become free from birth and death and old age and distress and suffering. And he can enjoy the nectar of spirituality even in this life. But indeed, Arjuna asks at the end of the 14th chapter, how does one become transcendent to these modes? How can one become Gunatita? How does the Gunatita person behave? And how does he transcend these gunas? So Krishna explains to him very beautifully in text 22 to 25. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Prakasham cha pravrittim cha mohameva cha pandava na dveshati sampravritani na nivritani kankshati. He does not hate Sattvagun, he does not hate Rajagun, he does not hate Tamagun. He is indifferent to all of these. Udasino vadasino gune yo na vichalyate guna vartante ittevam yo vatishtate nengate. He neither seeks any of the three gunas, neither does he reject them when they appear. He sits like on a throne, unconcerned. He sees the gunas coming, he sees the gunas going. He remains the same in pain and pleasure. He looks at a stone and a gold rock of stone, and a piece of gold with equal vision. He holds praise and blame to be the same. He is unchanged in honor and dishonor. He treats friend and foe alike. He abandons all fruitive undertakings. Such a man is said to have transcended the Gunas. So Krishna explains that one who engages in devotion, Mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatityetan brahma bhuya kalpate. If without distraction, without deviation, you engage constantly in worshipping God and serving Him, you at once transcend the three gunas and you come to the level of Brahman. And Krishna explains that Brahmano hi pratishtaham, he says, I am the rest, I am the support, I am the foundation of that Brahman, which is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness, the immortal, imperishable, eternal. Krishna is not Brahman, he is the support, he is the rest. He is in fact the source of Brahman. And you will transcend once you understand that you are the soul and you are not the Prakriti, you will be situated on that platform. So I will pause here. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay, before we actually, start this, we open the floor for questions. I just want to tell your audience that please send in your suggestions on what we should, Dr. Nagarkatti should cover next, what should he talk about, because we've had sessions for last couple of years, I think last 1.5 years, and we've covered so many topics. So now we need your suggestions on what we should cover. So please send in your suggestions in the comment section on Facebook. So the first question that we have today is, are all the gunas, are all the three gunas important for the human soul?
Well, they're all important for the human body, all right. Because tamagun makes you sleep, makes you lazy, makes you realize your body is tired and it needs to recharge its batteries. And if you ignore tamagun, then you are destroying your body. More and more people are realizing today that medically sleep is one of the most important things to maintain your health. And people who do not get adequate sleep, they suffer physically as well as mentally. One of the first signs of mental health falling apart is when you find that you're unable to sleep. This is the first sign. Therefore, if anyone is having difficulty in falling asleep, you should seek help. And those who sleep adequately, who are able to sleep 8 hours in the night comfortably, they will find that their body will get in tune, be rested, and will produce far better physical and mental health. So therefore, tamagun is not to be rejected. It has a purpose. It makes you aware and makes you sleep and rest. Rajagun is also important because you cannot be lazy all day. Rajagun makes you active, makes you function, gives you energy. As long as you don't identify with it and you seek the fruit and think that you are the doer, that of course is to be rejected. But Rajagun is wonderful because it helps you to function within the world. Sattvagun also, even though it leads you to knowledge and happiness addiction, it's still a place where your mind can find harmony, where you can advance in understanding the way by which one can move towards spiritual goals. It is the guna in which you can chant better, meditate better, perform yogasana better. So all this occurs when you are in sattva. So all of them are essential. None is to be rejected, none is to be especially embraced. Yes?
Yes, sir. So the next question is, of course, you've mentioned all the three gunas and how they're important for the human body and soul. Can one person who feel that they are on the path to some particular gunas more dominant in their body, can they over a period of time change that?
Yes, one is, of course, if you can regulate your sleeping hours and waking hours, then you will find that naturally your body will manifest different gunas. Like it will in Brahma Muhurt and in the early mornings, you will find that you are more in sattvic mode. When the rest of the world is running around chasing things, your body will also become equipped for activity in Rajagun. And when your body is tired and needs to rest and sleep, that will become naturally fall into Tamagun. What happens is that this is because your body itself has its own cycles. Different hormones are secreted at different times, uh, many different physiological mechanisms begin to act at different times. So simply by regulating, and all this is regulated by light to a large extent. Therefore, if you can function with sunrise and sunset as the markers, then you will find that you will be able to regulate your gunas much better. If you keep the company of those who are in sattva gun, then naturally, indirectly, you will absorb sattva gunic traits. If you keep the association of those who are in rajagun, you will acquire rajaguni traits. If you keep the association of those who are in tamagun, those who are Ratka Raja, who you will find every night at the bar, these people are in tamagun and you will acquire their qualities through constant association. So simply by living your life according to the natural rhythms of sunrise, sunset and the weather, also by associating with people who are in the guna that you aspire for, all this will help you to adjust and tune your gunas.
Great. Okay, Dr. Shantanu, I think these were the two questions that we had for this week. If you want to add something to the session, or if there's something you would like to, talk more about, we've got some time.
We can continue this next session
Sure.
and we can do things in greater detail
Sure.
because there is this rajasic food, there is tamasic food, there's so many things are there to discuss. So we will go through them.
Okay.
But essentially, what I want to tell you is that the gunas are natural. You must regulate these gunas in order to function effectively in life. And you do this by being fortunate in this part of the world with sunrise, sunset, and weather. We should take advantage of it, and your body will naturally tune you into the different gunas. Keep the company of people who are in sattvagun, you will become more sattvic. This is what is called sattasanga. If you keep the company of those who are in, say, tamagun, who enjoy roaming around in the night, such people will be what we call as kusang, and such people will drag you down into tamagun. All the gunas are appropriate in their own way at the right time and they serve a purpose. That's why God has given them to you. But when you misuse your body, you misuse your prakriti, you misuse your gunas, then you will naturally suffer from problems. And ultimately, you have to understand that our aim is to transcend the gunas and realize that we are not Prakriti. And when we realize that we are not Prakriti, then we will attain union with God.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Shantanu. And just like to reiterate that please send in your suggestions on what we should. Of course, we'll continue this topic for the next session. But
We'll
post
continue
that,
this topic next session, but see, I can also do Bhagavad Gita chapter by chapter, verse by verse, but then
yes,
that is more academic, and many people may not be interested in that kind of.
sure, sure.
So you have to choose what you want.
Right. Great. Thank you. We look forward to your suggestions. Please write in on what we should take up next, or if you want to go chapter by chapter, we can do that as well. So please send in your suggestions. Thank you so much, Dr. Shantanu. We look forward to having you next week. Hari Om, Hare Krishna.
Hari Om, Jai Shri Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.